It's a solo operation. Our other co-hosts are out on special assignments and won't be able to make it. But I do have an amazing guest that we brought on tonight that I think you'll find very, very interesting. And he has a lot to share. His name is Donald Watson, and he's from Fayetteville, North Carolina. And we selected Donald because he has an amazing background, an amazing story. And, one of the things about our podcast, when we talk with you and share with you is we try to bring people on that can offer a vision of hope and inspiration, to create change in your mind, to motivate a new way of thinking, to correct negative thinking, and actually redevelop some positive thinking, because sometimes you have to do things different. And I think we got the guy here tonight that can assist me in providing some of those strategies, those positive attributes that hopefully make a difference in your life. So while we're going, we're going to run, just under an hour. If you would like the show and share with some people that you think would benefit from listening to some positive, encouraging information, especially in an environment where we don't find a whole lot in the news that's often positive. It's usually mind-boggling and confusing, and it makes you wonder about which direction we're going, what are we going to do, and sometimes there's a loss of hope, and sometimes not. But regardless, we're trying to bring some positive stuff here. So, Mr. Watson, if you could, I haven't put out anything about who you are and what you do, and a short summary, kind of tell our audience what you do for a living and where you're from and all those good things.
All right, cool. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. This is my first podcast experience, so it's going to be interesting. You guys enjoy the show. My name is Donald Watson. I actually am the senior consultant of Tech to Refresh LLC. We are a managed service provider in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and most of our clientele caters to nonprofits, small businesses, startups, medical and dental. And I also am the executive director of the DC Watson Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization also based in Fayetteville that is mission statement is to provide technology to other nonprofits, students, college kids of all ages, families, anybody who is underserved and could be categorized as, I guess, underprivileged, underserved. I've been doing that for about 3 years. I've been doing IT for almost 20 now, but I've had this business for about 2.
Hold up. You said 20?
Almost 20.
And you're how old, Donald?
I'll be 37 next
Do the
Tuesday.
math on that. Do the math on that. 20 years.
20 years. I started very, very early. I was blessed with an opportunity by another fellow entrepreneur in Fayetteville, Harrison Hall. And I just kind of took the ball and ran with it. So, yeah.
Amazing. And I got to tell you now, we've had the opportunity here at St. Paul to observe Donald as he came into our facility and redid our network. We have a real working professional network system now that is absolutely astonishing. And I feel like the days when I was at a big corporate office because things work so well. So I have to throw this plug out here before we actually get started. If you happen to be in an environment that needs some computer enhancement, some networking, to get your systems upgraded, to make things work. Print when you need to print. Browse the web. The spamware is gone. Virus what? This is your guy. So if you need some help there, I'm telling you, you need to contact Donald Watson to make it better. He's like Dr. Watson of PCs.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate the positive vote.
Oh, yeah. I'm totally sold out. So anybody experiencing some issues there, this is your guy to contact. And not only does he, I have to add, solve the problem, he's a joy to work with. You can depend on when he tells you something, it's going to happen. And anytime, we all have days that where something comes up, he's going to let you know, hey, we need to reschedule, and that doesn't happen often. but he's just somebody that you can work with. So and then just 37, master these skills of communication, showing up on time, doing what you're supposed to do, establishing trust, and doing an excellent job. So, and I don't know what else to say, man. The phone should be ringing next week just when people needed some help. So let me know if you get some calls.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. I really appreciate the confidence.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I'm
Totally.
glad you guys are enjoying our services. We try to do right by people. We try to do the best we can with what we have, and if we don't have enough, we try to make it enough.
There you go.
So,
Believing in that
Yeah.
always. And again, our show, we talked about, young people. That's the whole thing, overcoming obstacles along your journey, your walk with Christ, and how that we want to provide a way for you to find encouragement in your own situation when you're having doubt, when you're wondering, what I'm going to do. We hope that when you look at this show, that you find something to hold on to that may actually encourage you, push you over the edge, and keep you going in that direction of just going through the things that we have to. Life, it's not fair, it's not easy, but we got to do it while we're here. So do it with a positive mindset. Do it with a focus. It makes a difference to get out of the negative, to get into the positive, and try to stay there and surround yourself with people that think and do the same thing. The journey will be much better. So tell me, Donald, as a youth, how in the world did you end up doing IT work? Because it's a hot field right now. Security and cyber stuff going on all over the planet, people in the background trying to do crazy stuff.
Yeah.
How did you get that interest? Where did it come from?
Man. All right. So, back in the good old middle school days, when technology really started to kind of kick off and you really needed a home computer, we didn't have one. So my uncle actually was getting rid of some computer equipment that he had collected, and he ended up bringing it to me and saying, hey, if you can get it working, you can keep it. And I did. I took a summer or two, did a lot of reading. Funny story, my next door neighbor actually was a computer technician from New York. And he had some parts, he had some manuals, he had some reading material, and it just gave me something to study. And from there, I just kind of honed in on it. I've already had kind of a, I guess, gift for mechanics. Mm-hmm. My dad was a mechanic, so it was like, second nature to me. But what we ended up doing is having, people in my life that was, supportive and kind of helped further my craft and allowed me to have an opportunity to kind of expand on my knowledge set. Mm-hmm. And from there, I got an internship in high school in 2005 at Unlimited Plus, again, Harrison Hall. And he introduced me to the other side of computer repair, doing IT management, network management, all that kind of good stuff. And it just kind of, I took it from there. I ran with it. Okay.
Amazing. Now, along your journey, this ended up being your only career. Did you do any other things along the way?
No. Strange enough, I kind of got here, definitely got burned out a couple times. But as far as wanting to do something else, this has pretty much been it. I got here and got used to it and got good at it. And, just kind of try to make a name for myself, providing quality service and just doing a good job. And overall, just being good to people, man.
Okay.
I think that's important.
Okay, so the computer field has been rewarding.
Yeah.
It's offered you a lifestyle that you're fairly comfortable with, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And it created some opportunities so you can travel sometimes when you want to.
This is true.
And so there's something to be said about staying focused and working hard. But along the way, has there been times where life challenges got in the way and you just wonder, what am I doing?
Oh, yeah, man. The last, 20 plus years of my life has been an adventure, twists and turns, a journey, hardship, heartache, positives and negatives. I lost my parents very early in life.
Okay.
I lost my father in 2006 to sickle cell disease. I lost my mother in 2012 to cancer. And we didn't even know she was sick with cancer. It was kind of unexpected. Growing up, I knew my father was going to pass away. I knew his life expectancy was going to be short, but we had no idea about my mom. So that presented challenges in itself. Of course, I have 2 younger sisters that, you know, like me, was without a parents. But at least I was a little bit older. You know, I already had a career, already had experience, already had, you know, kind of a understanding. They, however, didn't. So I think one of the challenges and one of the things that was kind of difficult was to watch them kind of go through something that I always had a fear of doing, which was having to exist without my parents. But I think together we navigated that challenge quite well. And it presented some opportunities for us to grow, change, learn, and hopefully be a example that you don't necessarily have to fall when challenges happen. You know, some things are just stumbling blocks. They're not the end. It's just a pause, you know.
And I remember you sharing with me that you took on the responsibility of being the big brother. You're the big brother, right?
I'm the big brother. I'm
You're
the
the big
oldest.
brother.
Yeah.
You didn't party like a rock star.
No, didn't do that.
You know, didn't step in sometimes. You were there all the time.
Yeah.
And you looked after a family.
Yeah. That was the biggest life change, I think. Early on, it was going from being not just somebody's older brother, but being almost like a parent. My sisters used to call me bro dad. I was the brother and I was also like the father figure, right? So
Okay.
it was just kind of difficult because I was still young myself, you know, where we're only separated by about 8 years.
Okay.
So it was almost like raising them while raising myself and trying to make sure that any pothole or any stumbling block that I saw, you know, I kind of moved around so that they wouldn't fall in it, or at least tell them about it so they didn't fall in it. So, you know, you do the best you can, but you know, they're phenomenal women now. They're 29,
Okay.
they're twins. They are great individuals, and it wasn't just me. It was plenty of outside people that had an effect on not just my upbringing and my outcome, even after losing my parents, but also with them. I was never by myself. I had family, had friends. I always had individuals that were there to kind of help fill in the gaps and guide me and them. So it was a really good experience. It was scary. It was tragic. We do miss our loved ones, but you know, I think the goal was for them to be able to rest and know that at least we are able to function, you know, and keep moving.
So during this time, was anybody going to church?
During this time, no. We weren't in church like we were supposed to be. At that time in my life, after losing my mom, there was a lot of other challenges that happened in life too. Personal relationships, friendships, family situations change, family dynamics change with people you thought were friends. Normal everyday stuff, but I think I was very angry with God at that time.
Okay.
I don't think I was able to understand the bigger picture or the plan as to why all of this crazy, chaotic stuff was happening to me and my family. My parents were some of the best people on the planet, in my opinion. I just didn't understand why they were taken at such a young age. So for me, I think I was just kind of cold and turned off from church, God, and religion. I always kept my faith, but I think just being in a presence to be open to hearing what God was saying, I don't think I was in a place then.
And what brought you back? What made a difference in where you just one day woke up and felt like things needed to be different with your relationship with God? What was that? Was there a turning point?
There was actually a few. One of which was there was a lot of death in my family and my friends from about 2012 until 2017. You started losing grandparents, you start losing elder aunts and uncles, and life just, like you said earlier, it just keeps happening. There's all types of chaotic situations, and I think that I got to a point to where I think all adults get to, where you start to realize there's something more to life than just living it and trying to do the best you can. There are some battles you yourself just can't fight, and it kind of drew me closer back into my relationship with God and trying to understand and trying to figure out, okay, what does all this really mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why did all this happen? And as time went on, I started getting more involved with churches. I started getting more involved with, I guess.
When you say involved in churches, was that from work or just
Yeah,
you shopping around looking for a church?
It was actually both.
Okay.
At the time, we had quite a few clients that were churches. And I think also just shopping around trying to find a church home, somewhere that I felt welcome and comfortable. And I ended up finding one. And I don't know, it just kind of brought my experience kind of home, because I started to realize and look at things a little bit differently in life. I started to look at life as not necessarily half empty, but half full, and having a little bit of, thankfulness for what could have been and what actually was in my life. I think the more you focus on what you don't have and what isn't right, I think the more you miss what actually is going 100% right for you, because it can always be worse, right? And at that time in my life, I, was just starting to rediscover, like, what really mattered, like family and letting go of things, and just understanding that even though my parents, were gone and me and my sisters were kind of on our own, we were never lonely. We were never by ourselves. We had a whole village of people that stepped in and helped us kind of navigate those challenges, like I said. So, I mean, there are some people that I know have lost the only parent they had, and at the end of the day, they had nobody,
Okay.
So it kind of realigns your wheels to life, It gives you something to be more thankful for. And when I started looking at life like that, I started realizing that even though I did go through those challenges and those changes, I always had the tools necessary to be able to, navigate the situation. So it made me a lot more thankful. And when I stopped being so angry, I started being more thankful. And I think that allowed me to kind of reconnect and rekindle my relationship with God, and just kind of to grow as a Christian, and to, kind of apply all those lessons to my day-to-day life.
Awesome. Now, has there been a time that in the last 5 years or so, now that relationship that you just shared with us in terms of God and the upbringing with your brothers and sisters, and having a chance to look at this church, and either through work or just intentionally visiting church, were you getting closer with him in your walk, or was you still kind of like trying to figure it out?
I'm gonna be honest. When God wants your attention, He's gonna do everything He can to get it.
Okay.
And it's up to you to either listen and give it to Him, or eventually He's gonna take it.
Okay.
And I was getting closer, and I was living life, and I was working a lot, and my focus and my priorities were, they were somewhere else, and I ended up getting sick. Never got sick, never had any illnesses or ailments or anything, and I went into the hospital for a emergency routine appendectomy. I'd never had major surgery. I'd never been sedated. I'd never been, anything like that.
Right.
And I ended up going into the hospital for this routine. Situation.
Yeah.
And my body did not react very well to the sedative, and it stopped my heart.
Okay.
And I was deceased for about 2 minutes.
Unreal.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you now, I know the story because you shared that with me. And I've heard stories, when you watch TV, people talk about near-death experiences and, seeing things and hearing things. And I've never had the opportunity to meet someone such as yourself who actually been willing to share what that was like,
Yeah.
actually have a memory that's very clear and vivid. And I would love, if you're comfortable, to just share a moment of what that was like, so that the people listening hopefully can find some encouragement in that, because I certainly do.
Yeah. Yeah. It was peaceful. The funny thing is, I didn't even know what was going on. I thought I was, dreaming. It played out like a dream sequence. I thought that's what it was, but the situation was not like people describe it. At least my situation wasn't. It was more so me just being in this space or in this state, and there being, a row of men on one side and a row of women on the other, and they would come up to me two by two and they would talk. I couldn't understand what they were saying. I didn't really, couldn't really hear it. I was just kind of in this fog, but I didn't realize what was happening and where I was at, honestly, until the line got toward the front. Mm-hmm. And I started recognizing family members and people that, had gone on and transitioned. And I'll never forget, the last people I saw actually was my mother and father. And I remember them saying something to me, and then when they touched me, I woke up. And I thought it was a dream. I didn't know any of this was actually happening. I didn't know it was real. What kind of clued me in was when my grandmother kind of sprung it on me and told me, "Yeah, you died."
Yeah, by the way.
Yeah, by the way, while you're making jokes about working too hard, and I think from there, it kind of changed my perspective. Mm-hmm. I think it made me realize that life is precious and that every moment you get is a gift, and you should treat it as such. Mm-hmm. Because that situation could have just as easily went, completely left and went totally different and been a totally different situation. So I'm just blessed and thankful that I did learn something from it. It did set off a chain reaction in my life to kind of make me see things for a more positive light, do better with my health, take more days off, do a little bit more traveling, and more so just try to remember that money will always be there, mm-hmm. right? Like, you'll always have money, as long as you work.
Right.
But your health, your life, that's the most wealthy thing you could ever try to keep, maintain. One of my, sayings I read somewhere was that the only resource that is not renewable is time.
Right.
Which makes it the most valuable resource, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yes.
I try to keep that in mind with work-life balance and being appreciative.
Yeah. That's amazing. And that experience, how long ago was that?
That was in 2019.
2019.
Yeah.
Not that long ago.
Yeah, not that long ago.
And so there's something to be said, I think, in listening to your story, being focused, mm-hmm. being appreciative of time, and understanding that, it goes pretty fast.
Life does go fast. It comes at you fast. And, sometimes that can be a problem. Yeah. But I think also sometimes if you look at it from a perspective, it's like whatever you're going through, no matter how bad it might be in that moment, that moment's going to pass. Like, no matter what happens, that moment's going to pass. Like, mm-hmm. tomorrow's going to come. And whatever you were stressed about today or whatever you're going through today definitely won't matter tomorrow.
Right.
It's going to pass, whether it be in the way and the light that you wanted it to, or in a way that, you could have chosen it to be a little different. But whatever happens, that moment's going to pass.
Right. So, I mean, what was it like, your buddies, mm-hmm. Your friends that you hung with? Mm-hmm. What are they doing compared to you now? Or is everybody, do you stay in touch from high school and your training? Yeah. What is their life? Those that, for when you look at their life, if you, if you're able to kind of, we don't like to judge people, but those that walk the straight and narrow or stayed close to God and those that didn't, is there a difference between those choices when you observe and think about those individuals?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think we all have groups of friends that we may have grew up with in high school or middle school or just, whenever in life, a point in time, and the ones that you stay in contact with and the ones that you lose touch with. I think the biggest telltale for me is from my friends that I guess if you would say stayed on the straight and narrow, they definitely had their own ups and downs just like me. They went through them just like me. And I think the biggest difference is they didn't allow it to beat them.
Right.
Like they just kept going. Yeah, like you get knocked down, you get back up. They never quit. To be honest, I don't have a really big friend group. I don't have a really big circle, but the ones that are inside of my circle, they're all successful. They all either own businesses, they all are authors. They're all serving their community in one way or another. They're always trying to give back, whether it be in quality time and trying to mentor, working with my organization, giving time back, helping us, in our various missions at the nonprofit, or even just, trying to just be a positive light,
Okay.
They're always kind of just moving.
Okay. And compared to, because you mentioned that you had you had some help when you was helping raise your brothers and sisters, so you had mentors and family members a little bit older. Are a lot of those people still around?
Yes, all those people are still around. All of them. And if anything, the circle's gotten a little bit larger because people come along at different points in your life, right? You never think that you're going to need somebody for something, and then, God puts them in your path, and before you know it, they're a part of the journey too. The only ones that aren't still in the picture are those that I feel like weren't necessarily there for me and my sisters.
Right.
I think they were more there for a life lesson.
Right.
And some of their life lesson may have been personal gain.
Okay.
And, I have no problem from people gaining from anything that I have or any way I can help them. But just be honest about it, right?
Yeah, just be honest about it.
Just be truthful.
And the reason I was asking that question, sometimes young people, I can remember being young once, you think that the advice you're getting doesn't apply to you, sounds out of touch, sounds misplaced, and you wonder, why are you telling me this? Why are you talking about this?
Yeah.
And can you, at 37, see the importance, maybe not then, but now that you had this journey, the near-death experience, thank God it wasn't permanent, but it was close. But good, you're back, and we're glad to have you here. But can you see the value in listening to some of this advice of elders, parents, aunts, uncles, neighbors?
Oh yeah, for sure. The thing that I think sticks out the most for me is you can never apply the information or the advice if it doesn't apply to you yet.
Right.
Like there's things that my father used to tell me about life when, I was 8, 9 years old that I use every day. Now that I'm a grown man.
Right.
There's, examples that uncles and aunts have given me that, didn't make sense then, but it makes sense now. One of my aunts used to always tell me, she used to say, you're so mature, you're so adult, you're weird. But it's like, why don't you go outside and play, or why don't you, do this, or why don't you do that? And, it wasn't until all the life events transpired that she and myself honestly was like, well, now I understand why I was different. I had to be built different in order to, survive the storms that only God knew was getting ready to come in my life. And as every time I face one of those storms, I'm even more appreciative for the things that made me different and unique, and the experiences I did go through.
Okay. And so if you had to offer an opinion, and I guess you will be now in just a moment, what would you say to young people like, our technician on the other side of the screen, Aaliyah and Houston over there, and the people in the audience that are listening? For young people today, what would be your tip to be successful while they're in high school and their plans for, college, whether it's tech school or the military, to be successful in life, what's some 3 to 5 points that you would suggest that they kind of burn in their mind to go along this road of being successful in life? What do they need to focus on current time?
Oh, man. Honestly, oh, man, there's so many. Let me narrow them down to 5.
Yeah.
The first thing is never be ashamed to be who you are.
Okay.
Because who you are at your base, at your core, you'll always build on top of that, but don't be afraid of who you are. If you are shy, be shy.
Okay.
Aspire to go out more.
Right.
If you're an introvert, cool, be an introvert.
That's right.
But try to go out a little bit more. But be yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's most important. 2, don't ever be afraid to fail.
Okay.
Because you're going to fail. You're going to fail a lot. And despite how pictures are painted about me and my life and who I am or who people think I am, I fail a lot. I failed a couple days ago.
Yeah.
So, you got to be honest about your failures, because your failures are what make you successful, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to go through some things to get some, some experience. 3, be very careful about who you allow in your space and your energy.
Mm-hmm.
Be honest with yourself about how people make you feel. Be honest with yourself about how you receive people and how people receive you. Mm-hmm. Because if you're too giving, you're going to be very appealing to people who are takers.
Yeah.
And if you are, so reserved, you'll never give anybody an opportunity to come into your life and help kind of broaden your horizon and expand on your thoughts. 4th, live your life. While it's important to have goals and dreams and ambition, don't be afraid to be a kid.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to be an adult. Don't be afraid to have fun.
Right.
Because without any of those things, everything that you're working for is going to be for naught, and it's just going to be a waste. And most important, 5, oh man, start on your dreams early.
So important right there.
You can start over, you can change, you can modify, you can do whatever you want to do. You don't have to say it and put it on your chest and stay in one space, but you need to definitely have an idea of what you want to do, what you want to accomplish early off in life. I think the earlier you have an idea of what you want, I think the better off you'll be as far as guiding yourself in the direction, or at least down the path, getting to the path for that, to get to where you eventually want to be.
Okay. Now, dreaming, that's a big one for me. You touched me. The graveyard is full of people in their dreams. Yeah. They never lived them. They stayed with them, and they're often forgotten. Yeah. Sometimes I think we have a way of taking on the values and ideas of systems and people and opinions. Yeah. And we get lost along the way. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. We're not living. They say that on Monday morning, that's one of the biggest times that people are having massive heart attacks and passing away from the stress of being involved in things that they're not happy with. Oh, yeah. Not to be too personal, but my mother and my father both worked very hard, even though they had ailments. But my mother worked especially hard. I'll never forget my mother's last self-functioning experience in her human life was her working her last shift at her job. Mm-hmm. She went from her job to our house to the hospital, and she never came back. Mm. And there were so many things that she wanted to do. There were so many experiences she wanted to have. And there were so many things that we had just started to kind of scratch the surface on, that people in my circle had started expanding and opening my eyes to. And I was bringing her into it. And we were just having a good time. But,
time gets cut short.
Yeah.
If you got a dream, if you got an idea, act on it. It doesn't matter if you make something of it. Just do it to say you did it. Because if you don't, you got to live with that regret.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing, right?
Right.
Is trying to learn to live with regrets. But yeah, just everything will happen in time.
Yeah.
Just give it time.
And do you think it's possible in the age that we live in terms of corporations, psychiatrists, and people who look at how man think and they try to come up with strategies and systems that enable us to kind of walk down this little road, pre-planned, organized. It's going to produce a certain amount of doctors, lawyers, criminals even. There are people who sit around and look at statistics, and they determine from numbers, how many people are going to college, how many people are going to jail, how many people are going to commit murder, and how many new prisons we need built, and how many schools we need. Or maybe we need to cut back because this group right here, odds are they're not going to make it. And we have to kind of, learn not, I think, to buck the system. We don't have to follow these paths, but if we're not careful about what we take in, if we're not careful about what we're watching, what we're looking at, and as you pointed out, who is in our circle, who's positive, who's negative, our thinking can be altered, and our decisions can be altered to where we lose ourselves.
This is true.
And when you lose yourself, you just become a product of the environment, the social system, the economic system, what the needs are. We need more this and more that. And you find yourself in a trap, but you think is what you want to do. You think that's what I want to be. Yeah. You convince yourself that when you stepped into this life, into our bodies, I was meant to be a fireman. I was meant to be a lawyer. My mama was a lawyer. My daddy was a dentist. And that's what I want to be. Or Uncle Bob did this, but what about you?
Right.
I hope that young people, when they look at this show, that the guests we have on and you, that we say something to encourage. What about you?
Yeah.
I mean, too many times we don't think about self. We think about what is popular, right?
Yeah.
What's hot. What field can I study? What career can I have? And there's nothing wrong with a career. I'm not knocking, career choices necessarily, but I do believe in, like you mentioned, finding out what you like to do, living a life just for you, what your dreams are, because all of us have gifts, right?
Yeah. You just got to exploit yours.
And when you do that, when you can find out what it is that God intended for you to do, what did he bless you with, what happens naturally for you, if you could build a lifestyle around that, your life would be such a joy.
This is true. This is the honest truth. I thank God every day for the ability for me to go to work and it not feel like I'm going to work. Sometimes it's hard work, though. I ain't gonna lie. It's hard work, but at least I have the ability to work hard the way I choose to work hard.
Right.
Using my gifts. And every day is another experience and opportunity for me to sharpen iron against iron and perfect my craft. My best friend, he always says, you got to work on your craft, right? You got to, every day you can learn something. Every day, be a cup.
Yeah.
And let people pour into you, which allows you to pour into others, which allows others to pour back into you. That's how we buck the system.
That's right.
That's how we govern us. Because there's a lot of people that I went to school with that aren't here with us anymore because they made bad choices because of things that happened at that moment, because of the people that were in their environment. So I think ultimately the biggest thing is to make sure that whatever you're doing, you're doing it for the long haul.
Right.
Make sure you're going through what you're going through with some means of an end.
Yeah.
But don't let your environment shape you.
Shape you, absolutely.
Even if your environment is positive, don't let it be the only environment you have. Open yourself up, expose yourself to other things, other people, other cultures. Be well-rounded.
Yeah. Don't be afraid of change.
Do not be afraid of change.
I mean,
because change is inevitable.
Yeah, yeah. And we can't buy into this is all I know. This is how it's supposed to go. This is the way it's always been.
Yeah.
No.
That will definitely. Only thing it will do is leave you stuck and behind. Everything has to change.
That's right.
Whether by force or by choice, it's going to change.
Yeah, I think one of those Marvel characters, if it won't bend, it'll break.
Yeah.
Or if you won't bend, you will break.
Yeah.
And that is so true.
Yeah. And
breaking is not necessarily a good thing. Now, you can repair and you can start over, but hopefully you learn something from it.
I'm going to say there's times where I've been broken.
Mm-hmm.
There's times where I have just gone to the limit. Like, this is what I'm doing. This is where I'm at. This is the struggle. And have just downright just felt like a failure.
Yeah.
But in those moments that I felt like I failed, I realized later that I actually didn't fail.
Right.
I learned that, that path didn't work.
That's right.
That wasn't the thing. That wasn't the move. So, try something different.
Try something different.
Or learn that this is what got you here. That you didn't fail. You had to learn a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
That ain't it. Try something else.
That's right.
Do a different path. And if it was for me, it usually worked out to the better of my abilities. Anything that has ever been removed or taken from me was never removed and never given back. It was usually either removed and something better was put in its place, or what was removed to grab my attention, and then it was given back, and then, it doubled up. But, you just got to be open to situational awareness and change.
Yeah. Yeah, that is so true. So when it comes to politics, when it comes to our current times, what should young people, I know you believe in voting, correct?
Yeah.
And you believe in our system, and here in America, I do. Even though things are crazy, there are worse places to live. I'm glad that I'm in America. But what advice do you give to young people when it comes to getting to understand how our government works, how we can make change in our community as a young person, how we can make a difference in school systems, in our legal system, in our criminal justice departments, in all areas, even in technology and higher education centers and colleges and universities. If we really want to make a difference when it comes to the political route, what do you take to them to say, try this?
To sum it up, think for yourself.
Yeah.
Think for yourself. Do not let one person or one party paint a vision for you.
Mm-hmm.
And do not let one person or party, shade you from seeing the better on both sides.
That's right.
Whether left, whether right, whether center, front, back, whatever. At the end of the day, everybody has an agenda and an objective.
That's right.
Now, whether you agree with some of it or you agree with all of it, it's okay. But just make sure that whatever you're agreeing to, you agree to all of it. And what I mean by that is, when it comes to politics, everyone has a platform that they run on. Everyone has something that they know the voting class or the type of voter they're trying to get is, going to be, their interest is going to be piqued by.
Mm-hmm.
Just make sure that whatever is piquing your interest about that candidate in that particular moment, just make sure whatever else that, they're talking about, you don't ignore.
Okay. All right. A few highlights so far is being focused.
Yeah.
Getting to know self, believing in self, understanding that, failure is not a bad thing.
Mm-mm.
It actually can be a good thing.
It's necessary.
It's necessary. And you really didn't fail. You just got to do it different next time.
Yep.
And even if it takes several more, it doesn't even matter how many, really, if you never quit, right?
Yeah. Persistence. Persistence is key to success. I don't care how good of a basketball player you are, you're going to have to be in the gym.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how good of a football player you are, you're going to have to, run sprints.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what you think you're doing, there's always going to be somebody that's going to be coming to be better than you.
Yeah. Some people, you'll probably finish this when I say it, but the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over,
expecting a different results.
But Thomas Edison, had he believed that, we wouldn't have the light bulb.
This is true.
So when you hear cliches and little things like that, we buy into it because you're just like, I just got to do it different.
Yeah.
There's a better way. Maybe I could, 1 and 1 is 2, but if I add this, I can go from 2 to 10 and make some changes here.
Yeah.
So don't buy into that. I always get bothered when I hear that one. That it's crazy to keep doing the same thing. Not if that's what you want to do.
Yeah. People oftentimes want change, but they don't want to participate in creating any of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Don't want to. You're absolutely right.
I can't take credit and say, I make that great of a difference in my community. But anytime I have an opportunity to talk to a youth or, feed or, give or whatever, I do it. I can't change the entire world. I mean, that was some sound advice I got from some people when I first started my nonprofit. They were like, you're doing too much. You can't save the entire world yourself. Focus on one thing and stick to it. Be persistent.
That's right.
And that's what I did. And when I started doing that, I found my niche. And I became good at it. The DC Watson Foundation can't give everyone in the world a computer, but we can give to those that we can.
Right.
And if we can make a small difference, then eventually we'll make a bigger difference.
Okay. I got another question for you.
Yeah.
When it comes to knowledge, is knowledge power or applied knowledge is power?
Knowledge without application is just useless.
Useless, exactly.
Straight
you
up.
hear so many times, knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power.
What it's going to do for you?
Yeah, knowledge is power, but lack of application is the problem. You have to be able to put the rubber to the road.
That's right.
And don't keep it all to yourself. Kind of going back to the cup idea, right?
Yeah.
If your cup is full, then there's no room for you to gain any more fluid.
Right.
Same thing. If you know everything, there's no room for you to learn anything else.
Right.
Pass on some of that knowledge to someone else. Make some room. Make some space. Move around. Allow yourself to learn something new.
And none of us know all there is to know.
Yeah.
There will always be something that we don't know.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to admit, I don't know.
That is the number one rule I live by on my job. Every day. If I don't know something, I'm going to tell you I don't know. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to find out.
Right.
It just means I don't know at the moment. I would much rather take time to give you an informed, researched answer on something than to have a quick, ready, fire answer that doesn't fit the bill.
Right. That's right. And sometimes when people do that, they always have an answer. They give information that's not true. You're going to be remembered because somebody like, he told me to do this or that. It won't even close to being right.
Yeah, that's true.
And
that's true.
And that comes to, building, is a reputation important?
Yes, it's very important. You don't want to build a reputation of being the guy who's the jack of all trades and the master of none. You want to be the guy that's the master of what he's taken time to master. Not just the guy that knows everything about nothing.
Okay. And because we're live here from St. Paul, AME Church,
St.
downtown
Paul.
Raleigh.
Downtown.
A lot of our members, watch our show, and they're young people. They look at it. Does God make a difference in your journey as you go through life, making these decisions? Do you sometimes get that nudge, that encouraging push? Try this. Don't do that.
All the time.
And is it helpful?
It's very helpful if you listen.
If you listen.
My uncle, he's got this saying. He's like, God will give you nudges, and then eventually those nudges will turn to shoves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, when something's not working, try something different.
That's right.
But also listen to the room, listen to your gut. I was just telling my sister this a couple days ago, right? Sometimes God's grace and knowledge and intuition weighs so heavy on your mind, so heavy on your heart, and so heavy in your gut that it feels like a boulder. If that is gnawing at you or it's weighing heavy on you, pay attention to whatever that feeling is, because it's probably intuition trying to tell you something.
Trying to tell you something. And here's another one, too, that I think a lot of people, they don't value other people's opinion. Who are you? And that could be God sending a message to somebody who don't quite look right. They don't talk right. They just don't represent what you might be looking for. But that one piece of advice that they're sharing with you about something that you're doing, something that you want to do, could be a message.
Yeah. I was told a long time ago, I don't remember the gentleman. He used to work for one of the customers I used to service. He said, if anything you remember about me, remember this: be like a sponge. He used to say, when it comes to public opinion, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to matters of any kind, be a sponge. Don't just write off what somebody has to say about you or a situation because you feel like you know more than them. Listen, because in all of that they're saying, while most of it may not apply to you, there may be a nugget in there that may.
Yeah.
And you never know, that might be the message that God's trying to get to you. Personally, I don't believe in coincidences. I don't believe anything in the world is a coincidence.
That's right.
I think everything happens for a reason. I think the thing that gets us thrown off is we just don't understand that reason at the time.
Right. And so many of us, I know it's happened to me a lot, we realize, if I had just listened, something told me. That guy, they were trying to tell me, but I wouldn't listen. Wouldn't turn left and should have been turning right. And, who are you? And we got to pay attention to those nudges more so today because of the time that we live in. We need that little nudge, but we can be so caught up in other things that we miss the nudge or we push it aside.
I said this a couple months back. I remember this specifically. I said some people get caught up in missing the message because they don't like the messenger.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Don't last. That's a good one. That's a good one.
A lot of people don't like what is being said because they don't like the person that's saying it. You may not like that person, but it doesn't change the fact that they're right.
That's right.
Sometimes you have to humble yourself a little bit to be willing to remove your feelings from a situation and kind of just use that third eye and just kind of tune in to what's being told to you. Because for me at least, God doesn't ever talk to me in the way that they try to portray it on TV or in.
Yeah, he didn't pick up your. He didn't call you on your cell phone.
Yeah, he didn't call me on cell phone. He didn't pick up my car and put it down. He didn't come and, stand in front of me. He'll send people.
Right.
Like God works through each other. Us together, we're supposed to make up the body of Christ, right?
Right. That's right.
All right. Well, if today I'm the arm and tomorrow you're the leg, then, we show up together, we doing some things, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think a lot of times we don't pay attention and we don't listen because we don't see how it applies.
Right.
And sometimes I think that's when God is really trying to get our attention. And other, just to kind of add on to that a little bit, always remember, if it's something that you prayed for and it's exactly what you want it to be, it's probably not from God. because God isn't going to give you what you want. He's going to give you what you need.
Yeah.
But everything that you need is going to be 50 times more than what you could have ever imagined you wanted.
That's right.
You just got to be willing to let go and let God happen.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's powerful. I can definitely hear you loud and clear on that one right there.
Yeah, don't put yourself in a box and say that's where you're going to live. That's not necessarily true.
Okay. All right. Well, we're approaching, believe it or not. Did it go by fast?
It went by fast, man.
I told you it was going to go by fast. Man.
Hey, this is my first little podcast, so, I was nervous, but I'm definitely glad that you guys gave me the opportunity to come on and speak and, talk about my life.
I'm glad you shared. I'm glad that you came, man. I'm telling you, but I do hope that those listening picked up on the sincerity of Donald and what he had to share. Whether you're young or even a senior, our senior, we all can learn from each other no matter what our age is. And I think that it would be very, very appreciative if you could share Donald's story by definitely hitting the share button. This footage will be on YouTube and it'll be on Facebook, and you can take this broadcast and share it with friends, share it with a loved one, and let them kind of hear some views that I think are a little bit different, a little more insightful, hopefully, than what you're faced with that might help you go over the top. Yeah. And again, if you are in need of computer services, how can people get in touch with you?
Easiest way is to just reach out by phone. Give us a call, 910-469-3302. You can send us an email at info@tech2refresh with the number 2.com. Or you can even hit us up on Facebook, facebook.com/tech2refresh.
And you have a staff in place that can, if you're not able to answer them directly, you have people that can make sure you get the message, right?
Yeah. They'll get the message to me, and we do the best we can. We're always here to help, and just give us an opportunity. And
I got, we're not quite at that 60-minute mark, but I know this is a passion of yours, because there are people that, from the church and other churches in the neighborhood and the state that look at us. How important is it for any church organization to get their IT up to par in the age that we live in? And if they need some help, why do they need help?
Technology plays such a common part in day-to-day life now that I don't think people really understand how much of a part it plays. You don't realize how much technology is used in the ministry. Everything from conveying, the pastor's message on Sunday to reaching people through live stream, or even just having safety protocols in place. You never realize how important it is to have a working phone until you realize that your cell phone has no service. Then you want to have a working phone that's hardwired somewhere, or realizing that Wi-Fi is important.
Right.
Or just having security, cameras, alarm systems, things that function. And more importantly, just having online security. That's important. A lot of nonprofits are churches, and churches deal with a lot of contributions and tithes. You want to make sure that money makes it to where it's supposed to go, and you want to make sure it stays there. By having proper security in place, it gives you the ability to make sure that you don't get compromised. You have access to those funds to be able to do things in your community that you want to do.
Right.
I think the time has changed so quickly, so gracefully, that people haven't realized it. And now it's time for the church as a whole, no matter what denomination you are, to come into the 21st century and allow technology to help you move your ministry ahead.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to disregard it and write it off as a fad. We literally have robots, y'all. Shouldn't be a conversation about having working internet and phones anymore.
That's right. That's right. I had to put that out there. If you're a church organization and you need some help to get it right, another reason to contact Mr. Watson over here. He'll help you with that. So we're going to bring this show to the end, and I just want to thank everyone for watching. It's been a joy working with Donald, And I do believe that you're going to find great value in what he shared with you tonight. I know I find his story motivating, and I use some of his principles. He's a little bit, well, no, he's a lot younger than me, a lot younger than me. But I look at him like I'm amazed. I love to talk to him. I love to listen. And I don't think any day that he visits this church that I don't actually learn something, whether it's application of a new concept or technique or just something, insight about life, because we all can learn from each other no matter what our age is. So I enjoy that about having him in my presence. So again, thank you all for watching. We'll be coming up in 2 weeks again, so stay tuned for our next episode of The Overcomer's Journey. And no matter what you're going through, you can win. No matter what you're going through, choose God and keep him out in front, and life will be much sharper, much focused for you as you overcome obstacles in your walk, in your journey of being a Christian and a God-loving, God-fearing individual here on planet Earth. Again, thank you for watching. See you next time.